Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Bianna Golodriga in for Frederica Whitfield. And we begin this hour with breaking news. CNN has learned that the Office of the Director of National Intelligence has informed the House and Senate Select Committees on Intelligence that it will no longer be briefing on election security issues. The unexpected move by new Intel Director John Ratcliffe comes as U.S. intelligence officials warn that Russia continues to target the 2020 election. CNN's Jeremy Diamond is at the White House with the latest. And Jeremy, what more are you learning about this surprising decision?
Well, Bianna, a senior administration official is telling our colleague Jake Tapper that indeed the Office of the Director of National Intelligence will no longer be carrying out any in-person briefings with those two congressional committees on the House side and on the Senate side who deal with intelligence matters as it relates to these crucial issues of election security. Of course, we are now, in the home stretch of this 2020 election, or certainly entering it, and election security issues are of paramount concern, not only to lawmakers on Capitol Hill in both parties, but also, of course, to many in the American public who saw what happened in 2016, who saw Russia's influence and interference in that election, and are concerned about the potential influence and interference by Russia and by other countries, including China and Iran, heading into the 2020 election. Now, this official did also say that other departments involved with election security issues, like the Department of Defense, for example, the Department of Homeland Security, will continue, it appears at least as of now, to brief members in person. Now, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence will still be providing written updates, it seems, to those congressional committees. But of course, lawmakers have repeatedly said that there is little substitute for these in-person briefings where they can interact directly with some of these intelligence officials and press them on the U.S. intelligence community's latest conclusions and their latest information. Now, earlier this month, Bianna, we did see the Office of the Director of National Intelligence put out a statement saying that three countries in particular are how they are interfering and seeking to influence the 2020 elections. Namely, it focused on the issue of Russia and the fact that they are continuing to try and denigrate former Vice President Joe Biden, that they are interfering in that election with the aim of hurting his chances at winning the presidency. And it also talked about the fact that China would prefer to see President Trump not be reelected, and that Iran also would prefer not to see President Trump be reelected, it appears. So certainly, there are active influence operations by several countries, and the fact that the Office of the Director of National Intelligence will not be briefing members of Congress in person is sure to get some criticism and a lot of reaction on Capitol Hill. Bianna? And we are awaiting that reaction as we speak. Jeremy Diamond, thank you. Joining me now to discuss this is James Clapper. He is a former Director of National Intelligence, serving in that role from 2010 to 2017 under President Obama. James, thank you so much for joining us on a busy Saturday, such late notice. But let's get straight to this breaking news and your reaction to this development. The Office of National Intelligence will no longer update the House and Senate Intel committees in person on election security.
Well, Bianna, I think it's both amazing and disturbing that here we are just a little over 2 months away from a crucial election. And of course, we all know the history of 2016, where the Russians pervasively and deeply invaded us in our political process. And now what I think is probably the single most important government voice on this, the Director of National Intelligence, is going to go silent. I just find this amazing. At first, it's a new norm for me that appearing before the Congress is kind of optional. It certainly hasn't been that way in the past. And this is also, I think, consistent with the reluctance to engage publicly or now even privately with the Congress on critical national security issues. That was the case with the worldwide threat assessment that I suffered through for about 7 times. And I think this is a terrible thing with respect to the need to inform the electorate about what foreign nations are doing to interfere in our political process, most notably the Russians.
Can you explain why these in-person briefings are so much more relevant and significant as opposed to written reports?
Well, with a written release or a written report, you avoid the back and forth of questions, some of which could be quite probing. And I think the DNI would like to avoid that and avoid the risk of saying something that might incur the wrath of the president.
Even at the expense of free and democratic U.S. elections. As we mentioned, this comes just weeks after the ODNI issued a report that multiple foreign actors, including Russia, China, and Iran, were attempting to interfere in the U.S. election. There was a lot of pushback, mainly among Democrats, about lumping Russia's behavior in with the other countries because Russia is so much more sophisticated, and Russia has done this before. Do you think today's reporting is related in any way to that?
Well, like everything else, this too is politicized, as important as it is to keep the electorate informed. And what I thought had happened was that Bill Evanina, who is the director of what's called the National Counterintelligence and Security Center, was designated to be the lead spokesman and the lead discussant on behalf of the DNI with the other relevant components, notably the Department of Justice, to keep people informed. So apparently even he can't do that. So and the other thing about this, even with Bill's statement, which I thought was good, is the relative weight of effort devoted by the Russians and the Chinese versus the aggressive and pervasive efforts of the Russians. And that didn't quite come across in the previous statement, and I think that's what caused criticism on the part of Democrats.
Quickly, what message does this send Vladimir Putin? The president has reportedly not wanted to be briefed on anything related to Russians' ill behavior towards the West, towards the United States, toward election interference. His own national security advisor has gone on television and said, hey, there's nothing left we can do to deter Russia. We've imposed so many sanctions on them. What message does that send Vladimir Putin once again?
Well, I think it just reinforces the pass that Putin is getting for this kind of behavior. And he of all people is going to push the envelope. And you have to consider Putin's background here. A trained KGB officer who knows how to use his intelligence tools and does so very aggressively. So and now he sees that the Director of National Intelligence apparently has been muzzled, at least partially, in describing his efforts.
All right. Well, James Clapper, we will have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us on this pressing and urgent development.